Have you ever lost your cool with your kids, vowed you'd never do that again, only to find yourself yelling at them an hour later or a few days later? Yeah, that's happened to me too. How about this? Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night wondering if you're doing the right thing or if you made the right decision for your child or if you just totally screwed up their life? Sounds like me too. Well, I want you to know you are not alone. This is what happens to all good parents. But as a child psychiatrist and mother of two, it's my goal as the parent doctor to help you find some useful answers about how you can prevent these things from happening and have each day be better than the last. After all, we all are striving to have a trusting, connected relationship with our kids, and we all want to launch kids who are ready to be adults in this great big world. Parenting is not just about raising successful kids, it's about raising ourselves, mastering our own emotion regulation, breaking cycles, and creating a home and life filled with love, resilience, and connection. If this resonates with you, please join me in the Empowered Parent Club. Follow, rate, and share this podcast with anyone that you know who would benefit from it. Let's get started. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Dr. Marissa Caudill, the parent doctor, and I'm really thrilled to be joined today by Dr. Eric Endlich. He is a clinical psychologist and owner of Top College Consultants, a specialty college consultant group where he helps families of neurodivergent young people who are applying to colleges. So welcome, Eric. Thanks so much for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me, Marissa. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so we were discussing before we started Oprah's 3 questions that she sets before every meeting, which is, what's our intention today? Why does this matter? And why is it important? And so we decided that our intention for talking about the college application process in general and the college application process for parents of kids with some neurodivergence, whether that's autism, ADHD, dyslexia, or other learning disability, or other thing, right? Whether it's something like anxiety or OCD that might involve the Student Disability Office, that is a special type of person. The college application process, first of all, let's talk about that a little bit, because I feel like I feel a million years old when I talk to kids today about the college application process. I went through this process in 1998. Neither of my parents had gone to college. I remember spending the Thanksgiving break in 1998 with my mom's old like IBM word processor typing those documents out. And so somehow I navigated that. I was a pretty independent and resourceful kid. I did it on my own. I didn't have someone like you guiding me in any way. I literally just had all the shiny pamphlets I had gotten after taking the PSATs and the pictures of happy people in quads and thought, this one looks good. I mean, I was basing it on nothing. There was barely internet back then.
Yeah, no, me too.
So now
I wish I had gotten some guidance.
I really wish I had gotten guidance. But what you were just telling me, I think it's so important that a person like you, I think my parents would have viewed it probably because we didn't have a lot of money and they kind of had a scarcity mentality that's like cheating somehow, or I don't know. Are you a parent who wants to read all the parenting books and you have maybe a growing list or stack on your nightstand, but somehow you just never seem to find the time to get to them? If so, I totally relate to you and I want you to know I'm here to help. Every month on the third Wednesday, I read, summarize, and present a parenting book that I have chosen that I think is a great one. And I do this via Zoom. If you'd like to get into the Empowered Parent Book Club, go to theparentdoctor.com/book club. This is totally free. It's a public service that I provide. And everyone who signs up gets access not just to the replay in case they can't make it to the live Zoom, but also to an actionable PDF that I create custom for each book that we read. So I would love to have you. This is a growing community now of over 200 members. These are like-minded, engaged, energized, supported parents who want to be more empowered for the sake of their kids. If you'd like to join us, again, please go to theparentdoctor.com/book club. See you there. I can tell you that my 18-year-old self wouldn't have even thought about asking to get a college consultant or asking them to hire someone for me. I don't know exactly why, but it's something related to like, you should be able to do this on your own. So I'm curious, like, what do you see as the strengths that you can add to the process for people? Because in talking with you, I think they're so obvious. And if I had a child who was on the spectrum and applying to colleges, I would definitely want your input because I know that I only know the tip of the iceberg about the specialty programs that do exist. And someone like you will know so many more things.
Yeah, well, I want to touch on that and 2 other things. One is you talk about the change in the process. It is always changing. It is changing every year. It's changed within the past 10 years. It's changed quite a bit since the pandemic. It is a constantly moving target, and the job of educational consultants is to keep up with those developments and guide students appropriately. And then you mentioned that, the whole idea of hiring someone, there's a lot of things you can do on your own. You can sell your house on your own without hiring a realtor. You can fix your own leaks in your house if you want to learn how to do that. Your plumbing, you can write your own will without hiring an attorney. But it's up to you if you want to do those things. I thought about selling our last house on my own, and then my wife smartly encouraged me otherwise. And I realized, like, I'm not a realtor. I don't know all the ins and outs of this. So can you apply to college without a consultant? Sure. But if you are a parent, you have your own job in addition to raising your kids, there's a lot you don't have time to learn that we professionals are spending all of our time learning. And then specifically for students with learning differences or other disabilities, there are pieces that are really important to understand, like where can you get the support you need? Are you ready for college? And if there are skills you need to build before you start college, how do you go about building them? Did you know that there are programs in the summer that can help you with those? Did you know that you could take a gap year and that there's programs to help you build those skills after high school? Do you know about the support programs in college? Do you know that there are support programs separate from colleges? So there's so much to this landscape that unless this is what you do, you may not know about, and you may just do what you and I did, which is just kind of wing it and apply
Hmm.
to college and hope everything works out, which for neurotypical students sometimes is fine. I'm neurodivergent myself, and it still worked out okay, but it could be a lot better if you know what you're doing.
Yes. Well, I think that segues into what we were discussing before about what is our intention today, because we were saying we both, at me as a child psychiatrist who I've seen families go through this process. I've seen kids totally stressed out about really wanting to get into one college, and there's a lot of uncertainty and variance in that process where it's in large part due to chance. Even if you are like on paper you should be in, it doesn't mean that you're going to get in. There's a lot of broken hearts that happen
Hmm.
in March of every year. So
Unfortunately, yeah.
unfortunately, yes. But we were discussing like we want parents to kind of calm down about this whole process and kind of believe that it will work out. Like if you can have that mental flexibility, which brings us to the second part, which you said what matters is the student's mental and physical well-being, number one, right? The child's
Yes.
mental and
Hmm.
physical well-being. So what I think we both want parents to take away from here is don't lose the forest for the trees, right? Like don't be
Hmm.
so focused on the college, the outcome, the degree that you need your child to get or think you need your child to get. Think more about who your child is, what's going to be the right place for them, and also realize that everybody has their own path and their own timeline. So tell me a few stories about counseling that you've done with kids or families where maybe things didn't turn out the way the parents initially thought it was going to. Like, did you have kids where the parents came to you hoping you would get their kid into some particular college and then you ended up guiding them towards a gap year or guiding them towards a totally different path because that was what the child wanted?
Yeah, I want to go back to your main point, which is the student's well-being. I think that's the most important thing. And that's true in high school, in terms of what courses you take and are you putting so much on your plate that you're getting stressed out about it. Of course, I want students to do their best, but I also want them to be at their best in terms of wellness. And as a clinical psychologist, I really value students' mental health just like you do. So that's always paramount in my mind. And that, again, that's true in college too, meaning that, what if you could get into that super selective school? Well, that might be a very intense, cutthroat, non-supportive environment that's not going to be good for your mental health. I wrote an article entitled Getting into College is the Easy Part because you've got to think
Mm,
about what happens after you get in. And if that is going to be a place where you can thrive, great. But if you're going to need more support because you have executive function challenges or social challenges or what have you, then we need to take that into account, not just what is the most prestigious college you can get into, which sometimes parents are focused on because they think that other parents care about that. It's some new research suggests that parents actually are focused on that because they think that it matters to the people around them. But we really have to look at where students are going to thrive and what kind of support they need to thrive. So that can play out in a bunch of different ways. I had a student I worked with who started college this fall who sent me a thank you note saying, thank you for helping me with this process. The college that I chose is a college that I didn't even know about when I started working with you. So if I hadn't
Mm.
worked with you, I wouldn't have known about this college. I had another student the year before who was not particularly strong academically. She wanted to go to college. She was doing okay in high school, but not particularly great grades. And I mostly worked with her and her grandmother, not her parents. And her grandmother was really doing research and looking at statistics and really worried and said, what if she doesn't get into college at all? Like, what if she gets rejected from all these places? And I was, trying to turn down the temperature and being like, it's going to be okay. All the students I work with get into college. Everyone ends up fine. She ended up getting to every college she applied to,
That's
partly
amazing.
because we are building a list that's right for that student. We're not just looking at what are the best colleges, but what are the best fits for you. And that includes colleges you can afford, colleges in the geographical area you're interested in, and colleges you can actually get into, as well as colleges that offer the culture and the academics that you are interested in.
I think what you just said is so important. I want to kind of reiterate it. The best college for a child is not necessarily the best college. Do they still make that US News and World Report's best colleges guide?
Yes, those rankings still exist. I and most of my colleagues don't focus on
Yeah,
them nearly as much as parents do. Keep in mind, this is U.S. News and World Report is a magazine that went out of business, and they turned to college rankings as a way to make money.
make money.
It's
Yes.
a
It's a money-making
it's
machine.
an
Yes.
extremely flawed process.
Right.
I'm
But
not going to go
nonetheless, we're
into the
drawn to
weeds.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
nonetheless, we are drawn to it because we want some external validation because otherwise we feel lost in the process. But what you said is so true. And I think it's one of the main values in hiring someone like you because you know so much more than most parents can know about all the options out there. You've been working for years, you've seen kids go and then feed you back, their feedback of how it's going. And you're absolutely right that that first year, especially that transition from being a child in your parents' home to being a young adult living on campus is a huge stressor that often
yeah.
results in big mental health
So
difficulties.
absolutely. And they're also families are often focused on rankings and name brands for reasons that you touched on earlier when we were talking before the show about this up some myths, one of them being like my kid has to go to a good college in order to have a good career and a good life and
Mhm.
good pay and all that stuff, that this is the only path to success in life. And it's simply not true. We've got data on this. This isn't just my opinion. There's data showing outcomes and both in college and after college, and how, with a few exceptions, you can have a great successful life regardless of where you go. If you look at,
100%.
whether it's US presidents or CEOs of Fortune 50 companies, where did they go to college? You will see names of colleges that you've never heard of. It's not
Right.
just the the usual suspects.
100%. I will share when we were talking beforehand that I applied a million years ago to college in 1998. Like, um, so when I applied, I got into Yale, and that was like, whoa, I didn't even really know how that happened. I knew it was cool, but I didn't really know what it was going to be like. I remember seeing my father's face fall when he came out of the financial aid office and was told basically like, well, you'll take out a second mortgage on this house you've worked your whole life to almost pay off, and then when you have no more equity, she'll get some loans or something. And then I was very fortunate. I got a full scholarship to Tulane University. And so the right school for me, a big part of it was affordability for my family. And I actually wrote a letter to Newsweek magazine when I was a freshman in high school because they did a piece on this young man who got into UPenn and the University of Michigan for business programs. And his family was like having a yard sale and selling their belongings to send him to UPenn, which I thought this is ridiculous. His little sister's like selling her teddy bear so her brother can go to UPenn because of that fantasy that like where you go matters 100%. And I said, it's basically what you do, not where you go, that
Right.
matters. And I 100% agree with what you
It's,
just said.
yeah, what the student does in college is more important than what college they're in. And again, there's research on this. We know that, you can cruise through an Ivy League and not have as great of an outcome as a student somewhere else who makes the effort to develop relationships with their professors, do research, get internships, join clubs, really set themselves up for success. There's a new book called Dream School, which speaks to a lot of this. It's not about neurodivergent students in particular, but he really goes into detail about this. And the other thing is, for a lot of students like yourself going to med school, or for me going to grad school, if you're going to be going to a professional school after college and the family's worried about finances, they've got those bills to think about too.
Yeah.
So if you
Hmm.
got a full scholarship, in your case to Tulane, and you're not going to have to pay for college, that's great. That the family has that much more money for med school or grad school, or just retirement for the parents, or any number of other priorities. So that's definitely a consideration.
Yeah, I love that. What questions should students going on tours and parents on these tours ask the colleges, especially if they have a child who has neurodivergence or some special need? Like, what questions should we be asking as parents to find out, like, what is this college going to do to
Yeah,
support
yeah.
my kid? Do you have guidance on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that question, and it doesn't come up often enough. So, two things. Number one, I've got a lot of free resources on the top college consultants website, one of them being a database, a sortable database of what I call neurodiversity friendly colleges and universities. So,
Oh,
there's over
great.
200 schools on the list, mostly in the US, a few in other countries. And so, if you're looking for colleges in Florida or Michigan or Iowa or New York, wherever, you can sort it by state and look at which colleges have support programs that go above and beyond the legally required minimum. If you just go on college tours around the country, you're going to hear, especially if you ask, yeah, this college has an office of disabilities and you can get accommodations like extra time on tests and testing in a distraction reduced room and all that stuff. That is the bare minimum that pretty much every college in the country offers by law. But some colleges go above and beyond that. So you need to know which ones those are. And again, we have a list of those. Secondly, I encourage families when you tour colleges, if at all possible, to have a separate meeting with the support program, if there is one, and or the disability services office, which may or may not be the same department. And I have a list, if you're wondering, well, what do I ask the disability services office? I have a blog post on that very topic with like 25 questions, and that's also on the website. So you can see a bunch of questions to ask. If you just go on a straight college tour and you start asking detailed questions about disabilities, it's not going to be very helpful because you're talking to admissions folks, not disability folks. You want to
Hmm.
talk to the disability staff and ask them, hey, my kid's on an IEP in high school. These are the accommodations they get. Do you give things like that at this college? Do you have certain kinds of assistive technology for these particular challenges? Can my kid get a single room because they have social issues or sensory sensitivity? There's a lot of detail you can go into if you have those separate meetings.
Okay, that's a really great resource. So for everyone listening, I'll make sure that the links to those resources that Dr. Endlich just mentioned will be in the show notes down below. How about now? Okay, I don't know if you've encountered this, Eric, but when I've worked with young people and they're going off to college and I tell them like you really should go to the student disability office and make sure, like, say the student has ADHD and they've had an
Hmm.
IEP and they've had extra time on tests, or they have autism and they have an IEP and they have a quiet place where they can take exams. Sometimes at this age, I find especially, it's hard for those students to feel brave enough. Maybe I think it's a natural part of adolescence, right? We all go through this where we kind of feel like, I got this.
Yep.
And you've got
Yep.
it until you don't. And so what I really would always encourage my patients to do is like, look, at the beginning, just go. But what you're saying is even before that, the students should have met with the disability office ideally. They should have a contact there that they've talked with so that it's not just like going to a stranger and knocking on the door and saying, "Hi, I'm a new student and this is my name and this is my issue." Instead, you've met this person, they're a friendly face on campus, hopefully before you go. That would be better. I agree. But if they haven't done that and they're just starting, what do you do? What do you say to those young people? Because the parents are going to drop off the kids and then they're going to go home, right? And now these 18-year-old young people are going to be on their own, needing to advocate for themselves. And even I've had a hard time getting students to accept that bare minimum of go take your test in the quiet place that they offer you. You have a right to do that. So, what do you tell young students about why they should take advantage of all of those services, whether it's just the quiet place, the extra time, or additional services that are available
Yeah.
to them?
So this absolutely comes up all the time. And at the end of the day, we can't force the students. All we can do is make suggestions and
Hmm.
chat with them about it, but it's their call. So, yeah, a lot of students, once they're finishing up in high school, if they've been on an IEP or a 504 plan, they feel like, yeah, I'm all set with that. I'm all done with that. I don't want to be a special ed student. I just want to go to college and be a regular student and study or maybe party, whatever it is their goal is, and not be labeled and not be the kid
Hmm.
who's on the special ed plan. First of all, if you are getting accommodations, if you are going to a support program, there's no reason that anyone would know that. It's not something you may have to talk to your professor to get those accommodations if they're academic accommodations, but that doesn't mean that the other students in the class are going to know. Even if you go to the disability services or to a support program, if you're going to a college with thousands of students, people are not watching you with binoculars to see where you're going. They have their own lives.
Hmm.
The other thing is we know that the graduation rates, that most students with disabilities don't disclose them when they go to college. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
many students who've been getting accommodations do exactly what you said, and that doesn't work out so well. Their graduation rates tend to be lower. If students are in a support program, I know one in particular that tracks outcomes. Their students who go to the support program, who in that particular case are autistic, have a higher graduation rate than the neurotypical students at that university.
Oh, I would believe it. I mean, honestly, even as someone who wasn't neurodivergent, who was not getting any accommodations, to have a dedicated support group. I mean, really, I think every college should
Yeah,
have that built in because it's a transition time. It's a really stressful time in your life where you're figuring out who you are, juggling way more than you ever have on your own, and questioning a lot of things, right? So that doesn't surprise me in
yeah.
the slightest that having a peer group, a social support group, a safe space as you go through that transition would lead you to have a better outcome.
Yeah, the analogy that I think of is like insurance, like thinking, oh, I'm a good driver. I'm not going to get into an accident. I don't need car insurance. Or, I don't think I need house insurance. I think my house is safe from fires or floods. Or I don't think I need health insurance because I'm young and healthy. You might be right, but wouldn't it be nice to have that insurance just in case something goes wrong? So
Hmm.
maybe if you get those accommodations lined up in college and you don't use them, it doesn't cost you anything to have
Right.
accommodations. But if you
It's
suddenly
not on your
find out,
transcript.
the final's approaching, you're like, actually, I am having trouble concentrating. It would be nice to have extra time or to test in a separate room. You can't get those retroactively. You can't fail an exam and go back and say, well, hey, I
Hmm.
have ADHD. I should have gotten accommodations. Well, that's on you.
Yeah.
You can only do them in advance.
Yeah. So I think that's where, for all the parents listening who may have a child who's in that adolescent, like, I don't need this anymore kind of frame of mind, that brings us back to our number one intention, which was to take down the temperature in the room with the
Yes.
parents, accept that, like, this may be the way they need to learn this themselves. And certainly, we both have known many young people who stumbled a little bit in that transition to independence and college and may not have had the smoothest first semester or the smoothest first year. And that doesn't mean they didn't end up in a great place eventually. And as their parents, what they really need from you is to just be the confident adult who believes in them and the safe home base to come home to when they need to regroup before venturing out again and trying it a different
Yeah.
way.
And this comes back to something else we talked about, which is that one of the benefits of working with consultant is that it's not the parent doing this. And
Hmm.
you want to just be the parent and not be fighting with your kid about this. I'm a parent too. I remember what it was like when my daughter was applying to college. Sometimes parents are reaching out to me saying, "Hey, my kid doesn't want to take a gap year. Can you talk to them about this?" Or my kid doesn't want to apply for accommodations. Can you talk to them about this? Um, Often parents sort of intuitively know that if I have the conversation with their child, it might go better. And I don't get into fights with the students I work with. It's usually a very calm, productive discussion.
Yeah. I think that's true for my role as a therapist as well. And it's not that we're better than the parents or that we know more because we actually know less about this child usually,
Right,
right?
right.
It's
Hmm.
that it's easier for us because we aren't so emotionally attached to this child. It's not our child. It's not easy for you
Yeah,
with your child, or it's
right,
not easy for
right.
me with my child either. But when you have that distance, it's much easier for us to be objective and separate and allow the child to have the sense that they really are in the driver's seat because they are ultimately in the
Yeah,
driver's seat. And that gives them the psychological space to be able to see our point of view and to come around to hearing the older, wiser perspective more easily than when it's with the parent. It's
yeah.
not anything that the parents are doing wrong. It's just the nature of the relationship.
Yeah, and although many of our students, if not the vast majority, have anxiety, many of the parents do too. And
Of
often parents
course.
thinking, "Oh my God, if I can't convince my kid to take this class or do this summer program or apply to this college or get accommodations, it's going to be a disaster." And you're freaking out about that as a parent. Whereas a consultant, I'm more confident that it's going to be okay, that we'll get there, that there's lots of paths to success. And even if things seem to go wrong in some way, there's often still another path to success. Not all kids have to go to college right after high school. Not all kids have to go to college at all. And there's thousands of colleges they can apply to. So I have confidence that it can work out.
I love how much resource you are offering to parents. And just when you were saying you have like over 200 colleges that have these programs, that's amazing. If you ask me, as a child psychiatrist who's been doing this work for almost 20 years, I know of like three in the state of California and one in the Northeast. But again, because I have such a limited experience,
Yeah,
it's
well,
not
it's
my
not your
job to
job,
work
right?
primarily
Exactly.
with
Yeah.
kids as they're going to college. It's just kind of the kids that I've interacted with by chance. I
Hmm.
should call them young adults. They're not kids. We're calling you young adults, kids. Sorry for
Yeah,
all the young
no,
adults listening.
they call each other
Um,
kids, so I doesn't. I hope they
College
won't be
kids.
offended.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So,
Oh,
like, just
another
mm,
resource I forgot to mention is I co-manage a Facebook group of
nice,
parents of college-bound neurodivergent students, and we now have almost 27,000 parents in the group.
amazing.
So that is it's Facebook, it's free. It's a great place for parents to get help and support and resources from other parents. So parents can go on there and say, "Hey, has anybody had a kid who went to this college or this camp or had this particular interest or this particular challenge or had this issue come up with this school district?" So it's a great place for parents to sort of crowdsource resources and support from each other.
That's super. What is it called? What is the group called if people want to
It's
search for
called
it?
Parents of College-Bound Students with Learning Disabilities, ADHD, and ASD. I can give you the link. It's a long name.
Okay. All right.
I
We'll put
think
that in
we
the show
have a
notes too.
link. I think we have a link to it on the website, and of course, folks can always reach out to me as well for the link.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eric. Let's just summarize. So, our intention today was to bring down the temperature. We know that this time of transition, as young adults are applying to college and leaving the nest, is stressful for them and for the parents. And we want to just send the encouragement to parents listening that they are going to get through this process. Their kid's going to get through the process. It may not look like what they think it's going to look like, but it's going to be okay. And then this matters because your child's well-being psychologically and physically is really important to you and to them and to us, obviously. And so making sure that you can be the best parent you can be to support your child going through this, making use of all the resources that might be available, such as a college consultant who specializes in neurodivergence or other issues your child may have would be a good resource to consider. And then this is important because a college consultant like you can help young people those tough conversations of how to be an advocate for themselves, how to make use of the expertise and breadth of information that someone like you has. And that sometimes without that, a neurodivergent student in a big high school with one college counselor to support hundreds of kids applying to college may not get the extra support they need. Is there anything you would add to that?
Just that all students deserve a chance to be successful, to find their place, to pursue their passions, and I believe there's a path for everyone. Parents don't always know all the resources that are out there, whether it's summer programs, gap year programs, support programs in college. And I love helping families discover these, whether they're hiring us or whether they find the resources for free on our website. It's very satisfying to help kids succeed.
Well, I think the work you're doing is amazing, and I really commend you. It's beautiful that you're dedicating yourself to this in this way. It's such a needed service. So thank you for all that you do. I'm very happy that we met each other,
Yeah,
and then now I know
likewise.
of you.
Thanks.
All right. Well,
Thanks
thanks
for
so much
having
for
me.
being here, Eric. All right. Take care.
See you. Bye.